World Cup, the Grand Prix Plouay, which of course is one of the most tough and spectacular races of the season. As many of the riders have been saying before the start, this is the final World Cup of ever as we go into the World Tour next year. So a lot of riders have got in their minds that today is a big race to win, of course, because it is the final World Cup ever, and they want to have their names on the actual board saying that they were the riders who won that final race. As we can see here, then we have two riders who are out in the lead. They have just gone away not long ago. You can see just a little bit of an advantage. A group of riders trying to come across to them. And alongside me today is Rochelle Gilmore, as usual, to bring us the live commentary of today's race. This is the second group on the road, which includes Evelyn Stevens, Elena Bellato. Also in this group is Emma Johansson, and at the back of the group is Cecchini of Italy, the Italian champion, and there's one other rider in there from Rabo Liv. Right now, though, race situation, 53 kilometres of the race remaining, and it's starting to get interesting now with these riders who are on the attack. So the two riders on the attack right now, Stricker of the INPA team, wearing number 154, and the other rider is Marion Sicot of France. And of course, we're in Plouay and we're in France, and therefore the French riders want to be seen to be on the attack. A very warm welcome then to a Commonwealth Games road race champion, the manager and owner, of course, of Wiggle Honda. Sitting alongside me, we had live coverage last week in Sweden. Rochelle, a tremendous day, 53 kilometres to go. But Grand Prix Plouay has a particular atmosphere and ambience about it.
Yeah, it's amazing here. There's an atmosphere of a festival that's been taking place for the last few days, and obviously the Plouay World Cup, it's been the last round of the series, is one that every rider out there wants to win, and we have an exciting series on our hands because we have the Boels-Dolmans team with Lizzie Armitstead and Anna van der Breggen from the Rabo Liv team fighting it out for the series. Coming down to the last series is quite unique, I think, for the World Cup, because in the past we've known who the winner was going to be on the last race, but today it comes down to the last race of the series.
Let's just remind ourselves then, Rochelle, of the race, the overall World Cup standings as we go into the final round. The leader of the series is Jolien Dora of Wiggle Honda with 391 points. However, Jolien Dora does not take to the start. We'll talk about that in a minute. Anna van der Breggen is second with 385. Her advantage on Lizzie Armitstead, last year's winner, is 21 points on 364. Longa Borghini on 320. Last year's winner of Grand Prix Plouay is Lucinda Brand. She is just behind Longa Borghini, and Amalusik is the next rider, the sixth rider overall. So we might as well take it straight from the horse's mouth. Jolien Dora does not take the start. Why does she not take the start?
Oh, I really feel for Jolien because it was a difficult decision to make this week. Obviously, she wasn't really expecting to win the World Cup in Sweden last weekend, and certainly didn't have any plans to be wearing the leader's jersey after that penultimate round in Sweden. So it raised a lot of discussion in the team of Wiggle Honda about whether she would come to Plouay and contest the last race of the series. It wasn't on her original race program, but more importantly, and I think more difficultly for her to make a decision, was that to put her hand up and say that I'd now like to start the last round of the World Cup to see how I can have a chance of winning the World Cup, she would have to bump out one of her teammates. And I think that was probably the most difficult part of the decision-making process for her, because she would love to be here in Plouay, racing the final round of the series and seeing how far she could go in such a difficult race as a sprinter. But having to put one of her teammates out, I think, was the most difficult part of the decision. But in the end, it was too difficult for her to say, okay, I'm going to line up in Plouay and put one of my teammates out. But all of her teammates had prepared specifically for this race, and it's a very important race in the lead up to the World Championships. So we didn't change the selection, and Jolien remains at home this weekend, and hopefully in the future that she can come back to try and defend what will be the Women's World Tour Series.
So always a very difficult decision for a rider. Realistically, though, all of us who know Jolien would know that she wouldn't really stack up against the climbers, and this is a very, very tough course, isn't it, today?
Well, I think that was the difficult thing too. She's a sprinter, and to come to Plouay and expect to finish in the top 10 and be amongst the best climbers in the world was a pretty tough ask, and the cost of that would be putting out climbers or specific riders that had prepared for this race. So in the end, it's disappointing not to see Jolien here, and I think we've got an exciting race on our hands anyway, with the second place on the World Cup standings being Anna van der Breggen from the Rabo Liv team, and Lizzie Armitstead, one of the strongest riders in the world, and definitely in fine form after we saw her in Sweden. She really controlled the race and covered all the moves last weekend. So it's a pretty interesting fight that we're going to see out there today.
Let's remind ourselves then, Rochelle, this group is starting to move away a little bit. 16 seconds is the advantage. We have 6 riders on the attack now, and those 6 riders who have moved away. Anna Stricker, the Italian rider from the INPA team, she wears number 154. It's kind of a aqua blue coloured kit. Sico of France wearing number 165, Evelyn Stevens of Bowles Dolmans, Elena Bellato of the Ale Cipollini team, Emma Johansson of Orica AIS, Elena Cecchini, the Italian champion, riding for Lotto Soudal, and Shara Gillow, the rider from the Rabo Liv team. They are the 6 riders who are on the attack right now. 14 seconds the advantage. Quite a sad day in some ways for Emma Johansson. I was talking to her for a long, long time before the start. Sad but also positive, but a pretty historic moment for her. It's her last race ever for Orica AIS today. She will not ride in Holland, in the Holland Ladies Tour. She doesn't ride in Belgium. She won't ride the team time trial in the World Championship. So this is her last ever race for Orica AIS.
Well, I'm sure she'll want to have a good race here. Sweden, her home World Cup last weekend, didn't really go to plan for her, but the Orica AIS team did a fabulous job throughout the race. So I think she's very motivated to get a good result here for herself, but more importantly, being her last race for the Orica AIS team. So it would be really fantastic. I think she's on a mission here. We see that she's made the move. She's in good form, so she'll want to do something with the position that she's in right now.
She's also ridden very well in this race before. When we look through the previous performances of this Grand Prix Plouay for the Orica AIS rider, Emma Johansson, she's always been there or thereabouts. She was 6th last year in this race. She was 2nd in 2013. I was chatting away to her before the start. She was riding along here to the start line, and she just wanted to tell me everything about last week and how she was feeling, and she seemed like she was on, as you say, a bit of a mission. She wants to perform well. She wants to go out as the last winner of the World Cup, basically, for the last race ever. That's what she said to me. It's the last World Cup ever. Be a bit historic, wouldn't it? And it's her last race for Orica as well.
Yeah, it would be historic, and she had a bit of a bumpy start to the season with the broken collarbone that set her back in the quest for the World Cup series. But she's definitely had a really good comeback after that and a solid season anyway. But to finish off the final round of the World Cup with a win would be fantastic for her and the Orica AIS team.
Let's take a think then about today, because it's very important. We can see the peloton just making their way around this corner, and they can see the group just in front of them. Liv Planteur seem to be the team who are on the front. Just to update you, there was an earlier breakaway. It was caught. The breakaway was Molly Weaver of Liv Planteur. Garfoot was also in the breakaway. Doris Schweitzer and Bellato, who's now back in this group again. They had a little bit of an advantage, and then the race came back together, and these riders have only really gone on the move now, and their gap coming down all the time. Liv Planteur, to me, seem to be looking like they want to try and take a big win today.
Well, they've had a good race to this point. They've done everything right, and you can see that they're the ones that are the aggressors there in the peloton on the front. They're trying to chase back this breakaway that is quite dangerous. There's some big names in that breakaway and that move. So to see Liv Planteur take control of this race is it's great to see for Claudia Lichtenberg, their climber. She's not quite in the form of her winning days at the Giro Rosa, but she's certainly got some good form after this year's Route de France. She was on the podium time for the general classification, and showing that she's coming back into that form that she was in the past. So she's obviously on good form today because the team are riding for her. That's clear that they're having a very strong race, and you see that they're still on the front, Liv Planteur, trying to put Claudia Lichtenberg in position to make that really aggressive attack. And we can see, you can just see to the right of your screen that Claudia Lichtenberg is second behind Liv Planteur, setting the pace there. So she's in position and obviously controlling her teammates and asking them to control the race for her.
Right there on the front then is Christine Majerus. I asked her how to pronounce her name this morning because I wanted to make sure we were pronouncing it right.
So we've had it wrong in the past.
She says. Majerus is how you pronounce my name. She's a Luxembourg champion. She, of course, looks after Lizzie Armistead, and Lizzie Armistead is right behind her today. Emma Johansson seems to be kicking on a little bit now. She's the one who's gritting her teeth. Elena Cecchini. It suits Elena today, this race. Lots of climbing. When you did the first lap in the car, didn't you? It's up and down all day.
It's a tough race. Since the days when I used to race here in Plouay, the course has changed significantly. It's a much harder race than it was. And Cecchini definitely has a chance. And she's put herself in the right position here, like we said, with some strong riders, Evelyn Stevens and Amy Johansson, and also Shari Gillow just going through on the front there for a turn now. So it's quite a strong break, and I think a lot of these riders will be thinking about doing something from this break before they get caught. So we might just see them setting tempo for a little bit and then some attacks. But Elena Cecchini, she's I guess one of the most exciting riders of this year because she's been slowly making progression, but this year you put her up there with the big names.
Yeah, you would. She was in a smaller team before. Now the Italian champion, double Italian champion. Her boyfriend is Elia Viviani, the sprinter from Team Sky. She certainly has very much got herself on top form this season, and yep, you would name her as a possible winner today. Emma Johansson in the breakaway then, the national road race and time trial champion of Sweden, the winner of Alfredo Binda in 2014, and Le Samin, the winner of Cholet Pays de Loire. But on the front of the peloton now is Megan Garnier. They're in the Stars and Stripes of the United States of America. Another rider who looks after Lizzie Armistead all the time. She seems to have very, very good morale as well, Megan Garnier. She seems to always be looking after everyone.
Well, the Boels Dolmans team today look very, very focused. They look like they're controlling the race, and if you saw the face on Lizzie Armistead there, you'd know that she means business. She had a very disappointing race last weekend in Sweden where she got caught up on the last corner. She couldn't get a foot back in, so she was unable to get enough points to stay in the leader's jersey for the World Cup Series. But she means business today. She hasn't given up. She sits in third place behind Jolien Daughter and Anna van der Breggen. But some would say, okay, the series is out the window. I'm just going to race now for the win. She wants to win, of course, today, but she really wants that World Cup jersey.
She certainly does. As they make their way onto quite a tough climb now, they go alongside a dual carriageway here onto a very narrow little road, and now you see the attack. And the attack's happening, and it's Lizzie Armistead who is going to catch the leaders now. And Lizzie is now, I think, just going to kick this attack into touch, and then she is going to make a massive move, which she does. So Lizzie Armistead immediately tracked, I think, by Anna van der Breggen. The attack is happening. Lizzie Armistead, Pauline Ferrand-Prévot, Elena Cecchini. Behind them, a couple of places back, Emma Johansson. And Lizzie Armistead immediately kicking her way up a very, very hard climb.
This is an exciting move. We didn't think this would happen until a little bit later, but you can see Lizzie Armistead there now. Her face looks pretty relaxed, and she just did a really, really big attack, so looks like she's on form. No one can even come through. Evelyn Stevens, she was in the brakes, and now she makes another attack over the top, so she's obviously got good legs today and really wants to set this race up. But that's an interesting move by the Boels Dolmans team.
It is. Well, Lizzie Armistead immediately tracked by the world champion Pauline Ferrand-Prévot. This is 44 kilometres from the finish, and this race is absolutely kicking off now as Evelyn Stevens goes full gas up this climb.
This is really interesting, Anthony, because you see the person chasing that is Anna van der Breggen, and we thought her tactic today would be just to follow Lizzie Armistead and try to follow her across the line, but Boels Dolmans are really making this race. They really want to set it up for Lizzie, and you see Evelyn Stevens is giving absolutely everything there, and it's Anna van der Breggen that's trying to close that gap.
Lizzie Armistead talking into her radio all the time. and she is talking to Evie Stevens, I'm sure, right now, and they're leaving Van der Breggen on the front, and Pauline van Prevot isn't helping Van der Breggen, and Orica AIS now coming up, and Lizzie just tracking Van der Breggen across the road. This is interesting. This race is in pieces up this climb.
Lizzie Armistead, to me, looks very comfortable. You see now that she's just responding to her move. I think that's...
Lucinda Brand goes now, last year's winner for Rabo Liv. Big attack from her, immediately tracked by Elisa Longa-Borghini in second, but Evie Stevens looking like... Look at the face on Evie Stevens. If you think this rider suffers, look at the way she is going up this climb.
This is the type of race we wanted to see today. So exciting. We thought it could potentially be a negative race, but it's just blown to bits here. Every single rider from the Boels-Dolmans team and the Rabo Liv team. Obviously, Wiggle Honda are there with Elisa Longa-Borghini, so we've got a pretty exciting race on our hands right now.
Do you know what, Rochelle? I think this could be the best bike race in women's cycling potentially we might ever see, because it comes right down to the wire. It comes down to the fight between Lizzie Armistead and Anna van der Breggen. Lizzie, to me, I spoke to her before the start. Now a massive attack on the right-hand side of the road, and it's now Orica AIS who kick off, and they go on the attack. This is Rachel Naylan, who was on massive form this week.
She's had a fantastic week. She's won a stage at the Trophy d'Or Tour, and she won the general classification for the Australian national team, and now she's just taking this race into her own hands, and she's really putting pressure on the Rabo Liv team and Boels. But you can see there in third position, Lizzie Armistead. She seems to be very much in control of this race.
Megan Garnier now attacks on the right-hand side for Boels as she tracks now this attack from Lizzie Williams, I think. Or
it could be Garfoot, I think, from the Orica AIS team. So they're obviously having a really, really good race for Emma Johansson. And we see also a Bigler rider in there, Ashley Moolman. She'll want to have a good result here for Bigler.
Meanwhile then, 6 seconds the advantage for Evelyn Stevens of Boels-Dolmans as she kicks on. I spoke to Lizzie before the start, and she said that she was going to leave today's race with no regrets whatsoever. She regrets last week not attacking. She said she should have attacked, and now she is going across. Look at Lizzie Armistead go. She said she wanted to prove to herself that she has the legs for the World Championships, and to me, she looked the most focused I've seen her for weeks, as Lucinda Brand, last year's winner, goes on the attack, and Armistead immediately she's looking for a way to get to Stevens, isn't she?
Well, she wants to be in a position to win this race today. She wants to put enough points between herself and Anna van der Breggen to take back that World Cup jersey that looked to be so solid until the misfortune that she had last weekend in Sweden. I guess that must have been very, very hard for Lizzie to deal with this week, but she's obviously focused her energies into this race. She's decided that I want to race to win today, so she's taking this race on like a one-day race, and she's responding to everything. We saw her do the same thing in Sweden last week, but unfortunately it just fell apart in the last 200 metres. But you see here that Evie Stevens is getting pulled back. It looks like it could be Anna van der Breggen chasing that down, and that is absolutely going to play into the hands of Lizzie Armistead.
Yep, the attack now is going to be nullified, and it is immediately tracked back, and it is van der Breggen who looks around now, and Evie Stevens is caught, and the attack of Evie Stevens was a huge one, and it all comes back together. And now the other attack happens, and it's Megan Garnier of Boels-Dolmans. They are just hitting them, 1, 2, 3. Immediately tracked by the Japanese rider, Mayuko Agiwara of Wiggle Honda. She closes it up for Elisa Longa-Borghini, and we still have 42K to go.
Well, there's a question mark that's hanging over the head of why did Anna van der Breggen chase down the mover Garnier, because we thought her tactic today would be just to follow Lizzie Armistead, because if she crosses the line just 1 or 2 places behind Lizzie Armistead today, and she's quite fast, Anna van der Breggen, then she would hold on to the World Cup jersey. But by doing the chases and pulling these riders back, she puts herself in a very vulnerable position with Lizzie Armistead.
Well, Anna said to me before the start, and I was quite surprised because riders don't normally say this, but she said, I'm quite nervous today.
Well, I think she should be too, because she's in a position to take the World Cup jersey today, and that would be one of the most prestigious things that you can do in your cycling career. So obviously she's feeling a bit of tension. She's got a very, very strong team with Rabo Liv behind her today. So of course she'd be feeling the pressure with a rider like Lizzie Armistead also being on top form.
That's the end of lap 3. They do a 26.5-kilometre circuit, which is a big circuit, and then they go on to the short circuit for the finish. And we've hardly got any riders left in this peloton now. That big attack has really hurt the rest of these riders. Niewiadoma is in second place, the best young rider, third place in the second group. So there are two massive bunches now, and this race has really split to pieces.
Well, that was the second group that we were just looking at before, and it's got some big names in it, so that just goes to show how hard this race actually is.
Yeah, we've never seen Kasia Niewiadoma that far back in a race, to be fair, for a long time.
No, we might have missed some of the coverage, and if she had have done some work earlier on that we didn't see, but yeah, it's a little bit unusual. And that might put Elena Cecchini back in contention for the young riders classification for the World Cup.
Yeah, exactly. Cecchini, the Italian champion. Another big group of riders is coming through at the back now, and there's a lot of riders such as Christine Majerus is now right at the back of this race, which is surprising because Lizzie Armistead normally really needs her, but she's done a lot of work early on, and now she's in the third group on the road. And also another member of the team, Katarzyna Pawlowska of Boels Dolmans, also in the third group.
Just goes to show how that attacking has split up this group, because like we said, in the second and third group there's some big names here, but that would be the tactic of Boels. I mean, they've lit this race up. They want to put Lizzie in a winning position. If she can win the race today, she has to hope that Anna van der Breggen doesn't cross the line just behind her. If there's 1 or 2 positions between them, then she'll have a chance of taking the World Cup Series. So
the race situation then, we're on the fourth lap. The race situation, the fourth lap now of the big circuits, and it is an elite group of riders. Maybe, Rochelle, about 20 riders in this front group, maybe 25. At the front, Anna van der Breggen, certainly very, very close to the front. And they're making their way onto this climb, and another big attack from Rabo Liv onto the Côte de l'Ezo. This is a really tough little rise here, because really, when you go through the finish line, Rochelle, you go onto the narrow roads. Is this Roxanne Knetemann at the front for Rabo Liv right now?
It's a little bit difficult to see with our pictures, but it could be Shara Gillo, or it could be Anna van der Breggen herself. I think it might be Shara Gillo there pushing the pace on the front.
Yeah, the tempo really being set by Rabo Liv. On the right-hand side is Carly Taylor of Lotto Soudal, but now another big attack. And it is Ale Cipollini who are mixing things up a little bit. An immediate reaction from Orica AIS. And this climb, 1.5 kilometres, about 4.5% as is average. But you'll know from going around it previously, got some really tough little kicks in it, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's a tough section of the course. It's all about that last hill where it all happens, but this is the part that really takes it out of the legs and where people don't really expect it to break up. So you can see now that Ale Cipollini rider was covered by Katrin Garfoot of Orica AIS. And we can also see Mayuko Hagiwara of the Wiggle Honda team just there in 4th position, hanging on, dedicated to working for Elisa Longo Borghini today.
I think there's around about 35 riders in this front group right now. So things have slimmed down. Lizzie Armistead takes a bottle. I don't know how she got that bottle.
That was pretty amazing. She just grabbed it in front of a rider, but quick reflexes. Obviously, she's comes from a track background also, and very handy in the sprint. We can see that on the climb she was playing a bit of cat and mouse and always had her head turned looking at what was coming so she could cover those moves just a fraction of a second before other people.
Megan Garnier just missed her bottle, shook her head, wasn't very happy with that. Here's a reminder then of the World Cup. Jolien Dora is the leader with 391 points. Anna van der Breggen in second, 385. Lizzie Armistead with 364. Longo Borghini is in 4th place, 320. Lucinda Brand, Amia Lusic. And the competition, of course, between Niewiadoma and Cecchini will continue, I'm sure, until the end of today's race. So Cecchini could take the best young rider classification. So it's really going to come down right to the wire. It will come down to the finishing sprint unless we see a big attack, as Ale Cipollini with Megan Garnier following. Pauline Ferrand-Prévot in 3rd place there. Behind Ferrand-Prévot is one of Wiggle Honda, Looks like Brontini, she's riding out of her skin on a course like this.
Absolutely. It's a little bit of a surprise to see Georgia Brontini still there. You can just see her behind Pauline Ferrand-Prévot in the black and orange helmet there for Wiggle Honda. So she's having a really top ride, I guess, getting into good shape for the World Championships. But we didn't expect to see her at this point of the race still in the peloton.
I think the peloton has calmed down a little bit because that last climb with Armisted's attack has really hurt these riders' legs. Pauline Ferrand-Prévot right in the middle there. She said before the start she didn't know how she was going to go today because she's been training for the Mountain Bike World Championships. So she's got mountain bike legs, really, but she doesn't look too bad at all.
Well, she's just 1 week out from the World Mountain Bike Championships, but it did say in the newspaper that the team Rabo Liv will be racing for a win with Pauline Ferrand-Prévot today, and just hoping that Anna van der Breggen can do what it takes to keep that World Cup. Well, she hasn't got the World Cup jersey. We keep forgetting about Jolien Dorder being the leader because the race here is really between Anna van der Breggen and Lizzie Armitstead, but Anna van der Breggen just ahead of Lizzie Armitstead on the points, so we think that the Rabo Liv team, according to the newspaper, they'll race for a win with Pauline Ferrand-Prévot being a home World Cup and having form just going into the World Championships in the mountain bikes.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens. Another attack, and it's Megan Garnier who goes on the move for Bowles-Dolmans. She is attacking now. A little bit of strapping on Megan Garnier's left knee there. So she's obviously had a little bit of either an injury or a niggle or something. So they quite often put this tape on their knees, don't they, to just straighten a kneecap up.
It's quite common these days for the athletes to also use it just as a prevention, even if they've had problems in the past and it seems to be cured. So a lot of the riders using that tape in the peloton today. We see Audrey Cordon, the French rider, had her neck strapped this morning by the camper. So a lot of these riders are strapped up just as a precaution or to avoid that injury getting any worse.
I noticed last week when we did the team time trial, a lot of the riders had that strapping all the way down their backs.
Yeah, and they're colour coordinating it as well, yeah. So it's a bit of a fashion statement. But you know how things are trending, and at the moment in the women's peloton, that's definitely trending.
It's all about tape.
Tape.
What colour you have. Exactly. Right, the peloton's calmed down a little bit as we go winding our way along this road. You had a long trip here. It was quite a few kilometres.
14 hours from Eurobike, always a highlight of my season to go to Eurobike, but I would have missed Plouay for the World, so that just meant doing a long drive. So I enjoyed that, a lot of singing, but I'm really glad that I made it here for this World Cup because this has been an exciting race.
It has so far. We've got an attack now at the front, one of the French teams from Puerto-Charentes, Futuroscope. One of their ex-riders is sitting to our left-hand side. And so this attack now going on. Is this Pascal Juland possibly who's making her move? Lucinda Brand is immediately going through. So Lucinda Brand now makes her move. But on French TV is Emmanuelle, who used to ride for this team. She was telling me about this squad beforehand. The team of Pascal Juland, Amélie Riva, Aude Bianic, Eugénie Duval, Séverine Hérault and Victoria Julman are the team as Lucinda Brand goes zooming past the camera, and it is Aude Bianic who's on the attack now for Puerto-Charentes.
We've seen Lucinda Brand on this course just take advantage of such a strong team and fighting on and never giving up. She's got a lot of confidence from last year, the position that she was put in, just clawing her way back to the breakaway and then attacking in function of her teammates, but staying away for the victory. So that would have given her a lot of confidence. I know from my own experience, if you have a result on a certain course, you always go back there with a lot of confidence, and she's using that today to set Rabo Liv up in a really great position coming into the final part of the race.
Look at Lucinda Brand is going flat out, but we know she is a crazy descender.
Well, Mariana Vos says that Lucinda Brand is possibly the most talented bike handler with the most skills she's ever seen of any female bike rider. So we might see that she puts a little bit of time into the peloton at the bottom of this descent.
Look at this, she's catching all the motorbikes in front of her. They can't go quick enough because she is going so fast downhill. She's catching all the bikes one by one. They don't expect her to go that fast, but she's as fast as any man on a descent in a peloton. She is really, really quick.
Well, I think Rabo Liv will probably be quite confident with this move, and they'd like to let it go. So it's going to be all up to Bowles, and I guess that's one issue that they could run into, given that they were so aggressive on the last lap that they put all their energy into trying to break it up. But now it's going to be very difficult to bring this move back.
So let's just remind you all, and thanks very much for watching, 34 kilometres now remain in the Women's World Cup, the Grand Prix Plouay. It's an historic race. It's part of a weekend of cycling. We have a fantastic weekend of racing. The men's race is tomorrow. The women's race has its own day today. They have a massive sportif. I have never seen, apart from at the World Championships and on Outdoors, more camper vans than anywhere in the world.
I've been here quite a few times and it still amazes me. I question, where do they all come from and what are they doing here? Just for a bike race, they've had to travel a long way, but it's a great atmosphere to see all those camper vans lined up. And I just love here in Plouay too, how they have the grandstand set up, and on a day like this, they have so many spectators. So you hear the crowd come through and the rumble of the stands there. It just creates that atmosphere like at the World Championships. So it's a fantastic race. Obviously the men race tomorrow. It's all about the women in this moment.
Another attack then. This is Spratty. Amanda Spratt now makes a move, tracked by possibly Emily Collins in second. Behind her, Mayuko, it's not Emily Collins, but it's Mayuko Agiwara, who is behind. Sarah Mustonen is now the next rider coming across. So constant moves. But Amanda Spratt, the winner of the Suffer Prize by the Suffer Fest last weekend, is now in as this group gets into one long line yet again.
Well, she's just having a look around there, probably to make sure Emmy Johansson is in a good position, because she's got good legs, Amanda Spratt. Like you said, last weekend in Sweden, she was on the tack, just attack after attack. And she looks to be in fine form on this little bit more difficult, this course, more hills up and down, and she seems to be in really fine form and playing a really good role for Emmy Johansson today. She
was in very good spirits first thing this morning, as was Lizzie Williams, who was really looking forward to today's race as well. As we look here at Lucinda Brand, the Dutch champion, looking really strong. Second in Sparkassen Giro. Aude Bianic is the French rider from the Futuroscope team, as was. They're now the Puerto Charente. It's Aude Bianic. She's a track rider predominantly, the French rider, but she's very, very strong indeed, and she's made her way into this move. And as you've said previously, Rochelle, when you're at this level with this amount of kilometres to go in a World Cup, you have to be really on top of your game.
Well, it looks like Bianic's in fine form. She looks quite comfortable being there with Lucinda Brown. You can see that they had a little bit of conversation there, and they seem to be working very, very well together. I think they both have the same motive here to work together and try to stay away. So it could be a very difficult break for the peloton to bring back. It's all up to Bowles, but do they want to do that? They're going to back Lizzie Armistead to have a really good sprint. She's super fast in the finish, and maybe they'll just gamble to hope that Anna van der Breggen's not on Lizzie's wheel when they cross the line.
Let's remember, though, there is 21 points between Van der Breggen and Lizzie Armistead. That means that once you get further on down the standings, it's harder for Lizzie to win. So she needs to win or finish second, really, and have a gap between her and Van der Breggen.
Well, as we see it right now, it was the Bowles-Dolmans team that pulled this back, so they definitely want to get Lizzie Armistead up for the win. Rabo Liv attacked straight over the top, so that was a really good move by Lucinda Brand to set this attack up. Bowles-Dolman have got their work cut out here because it keeps changing, but right now it looks like Rabo Liv are in control.
Another big attack at the front of this race, immediately tracked by Emma Johansson, Elena Cecchini. Behind Elena Cecchini is Evie Stevens. Behind her is Sarah Mustonen. Behind Sarah Mustonen is Mayuko Agiwara, then Anna van der Breggen. Also near the front, Lizzie Armistead. And Lizzie, to me, looks like she has got that pedalling style that she has when she is absolutely firing. She looks so easy right now. And now the attack of Evelyn Stevens again. They are really trying to put everybody else on the ropes.
Well, Evie Stevens has had a fantastic ride. She's just giving everything she's absolutely got for Lizzie Armistead today. Mayuko Hagiwara, this is an impressive ride. She's been on all of the moves, just covering the moves for Elisa Longo Borghini. And there's so many riders that are on top form, coming so close to the World Championships, that we're seeing one of the most exciting races that we've seen this year.
So immediately then, the lull in the peloton yet again, and there's no surprise. The next attack is coming from Bowles-Dolmans, and it is Megan Garnier, the American champion, immediately tracked tracked by the Italian Giorgia Bronzini, twice the world champion, coming onto form, of course, ahead of World Championship time. So, and Bronzini, I have to say, and she won't mind me saying that this course is not a Giorgia Bronzini course. This is full of hills. It's tough, it's hard, but when you're getting towards World Championships 4 weeks away, Bronzini is right at the top of her game.
Well, I said before this race that she's an outside chance for the win, because seeing her this morning and how focused she was coming into this race, knowing that she wants to prove something on a really difficult circuit, because she knows that the Olympic Games next year is a very difficult circuit. The Italian team is very hard to get into, and to think that a dual world champion is thinking about selection for the Olympic Games already, she wants to prove that on a hard circuit she can do well. She's looking around there for Elisa Longo-Borghini to see what kind of position she's in. Mayuko Hagiwara of the Wiggle Honda team just putting some pressure down, but Giorgia Bronzini looks to be in fine form.
So an immediate reaction from Hagiwara. I think that's Susanna Zorzi of Lotto Soudal who is there. But Lotto is still relatively close to the front for Ale Cipollini. But this is some bike race right now. 30 kilometres to go. They're going to come round. That will complete their 4th lap. Then they'll go round the little circuit. That will finish the World Cup. And then we'll find out who is the overall winner. So if you've just joined us now, the race has been just kicking off all the time. You've missed some incredible action so far in the World Cup. This is the 10th round. Jolien Dora is the leader, 391 points, but she is not here. Van der Breggen second, 385. Lizzie Armistead 364. Longo-Borghini 320. Lucinda Brand 297. That's the standings in the World Cup. For Armistead to win, and just to remind you of the point situation, there's 120 points for the winner of today's World Cup. That would wouldn't give Armistead enough points if indeed she had Van der Breggen right on her wheel. So 120 points for the win, 100 for second, 85 for third, 70 for fourth, 60 for fifth. So there has to be Armistead taking the win and Van der Breggen finishing third, or Van der Breggen winning would just do it, or Van der Breggen ahead of Armistead gives her the victory overall. But Longo-Borghini and Brand, if they sneaked away in a breakaway, can still do something. So it's still not over for anybody. That was almost a crash there, as Lucinda Brand has got a problem now. She was hit there by one of the riders from one of the smaller teams, and I think she may have taken her wheel. She has, look. So Lucinda Brand now has got a problem. I think it's game over for her.
She's tapping on the rear derailleur, so she's probably got electronical problems. Sometimes when the rear derailleur gets hit in a little accident like that, it goes into a function where it's trying to readjust itself, but she looks like a chain could be caught there because she can't turn the pedals, so that's a little bit of a disaster for Rabo Liv. She's had a fantastic race until now, but we can see there's another Rabo Liv rider now trying to close that gap and get back in the mix.
She's going to be really gutted, though. I mean, you think about it. Here's what happened. Watch this. The two riders collide. Lucinda Brand went to swing out of the peloton. The Italian team rider wasn't watching. They collided, and Brand has now lost her position in the peloton. I think we'll see Lucinda Brand drop away and will be in the 3rd or 4th group on the road because the team cars, I think I'm right in saying, are behind the 2nd or 3rd group.
Yeah, that's a devastating blow for Rabo Liv now, because that was a perfect move, but it's going to put them on the back foot.
So a little bit of a move here, Rochelle. A few riders have gone clear as we go past this magnificent chateau, which we drove past yesterday out on the course. This is the Chateau de Pont Calec. It's right out on the other side of the circuit. It's pretty beautiful. The nice stream running along the front of it. A beautiful area to live in. But that's now really going to hurt, isn't it, Rabo Liv, for Van der Breggen's chances?
Absolutely. I think they're in a really strong position there, and Brand was in fine form and she was doing a fantastic job being there in the move. Could be the move of the day, but we'll see what happens now when we get these pictures back of the riders, because that's it's definitely going to shake things up and change the tactics a little bit for the Rabo Liv team.
Megan Garnier is in the leading group then, and she is riding strongly at the front. Hagiwara is the rider in 2nd place. We have a couple of the other smaller teams. Orica AIS are represented in here. I think it's Zorzi of the Lotto Soudal team, who is also in here. One of the riders there at the front there is Lizzie Williams, I think, who is in the group for Orica AIS. So a good move for her. It is Zorzi of Lotto Soudal. Also at the back of the peloton, back of the group, number 141 is Rasa Lelevit from Aroma Italia. So a good group in here, making their way off the front, but this won't work for Boels Dolmans. It will work for Van der Breggen.
Yeah, I think there's two strong riders in here. Mayuko Hagiwara is one of them, but riding in function of Elisa Longo Borghini today. It's you see the peloton here. Evelyn Stevens on the front for Boels. See Ashley Moolman probably pushing the pace because she will want to have a really good race here, but they've missed the move, so it is in the hands of Boels now, and the bigler rider of Ashley Moolman just sitting near the front there. Ale Cipollini may have missed the move.
Lizzie Armistead sitting over on the right-hand side, today wearing the British Champions colours. Number 41 is also in the group from SC Michela Fanini Rocks. That's Lara Vicielli.
I think we're going to see a little bit of an explosion from the Rabo Lift team when we hit the hill next time. They've got to do something at this point. They'd be a little bit nervous, and Gagne being in the break is a good move for the Boels Dolmans team.
Ale Cipollini then on the front of the second group on the road. They are just riding tempo. They're quite happy with this. They have Oliveira, the rider in the group, wearing number 33. Flavia Oliveira, the Brazilian rider. Over on the right-hand side, Ashley Moolman, Lizzie Armistead looking pretty comfortable, but this is not good for her. This doesn't suit her winning the World Cup because she wouldn't score enough points, but it's good, in fact, for her from her teammate Garnier to be in the attack.
Well, I think Lizzie Armistead might be counting on the fact that Rabo Liv have to do something and get this bunch moving, and she'll just wait for her moment to go on the attack. So she may be thinking, okay, Rabo Liv, we're going to hit the climb, they're going to have to do something, and I'll take advantage of that at the right moment.
26 kilometres of racing remaining, 29 seconds now. The advantage for this leading group of riders, which contains Garnier of Boels Dolmans, Hagiwara of Wiggle Honda, Zorzi of Lotto Soudal, Lizzie Williams of Orica AIS, Lelevit of the team of Aramitalia Viano, she's on the attack. Vicielli also in this leading group for SC Michele Fanini Rocks, and Oliveira of Ale Cipollini. There's a couple of other riders in there, which Rochelle is desperately trying to identify, so we can give you all the rundown of who is in here. Rivat, also of the Futuroscope team, is in the group.
Well, I think the tactic here of this breakaway, especially with Garnier and Hagiwara, is to push the pace, because that sets their riders up, Lizzie Armistead and Elisa Longo Borghini, to take advantage after Rabo Liv have to do a little bit of the work. We saw that back in the main peloton, it is Rabo Liv now that is setting the pace, trying to close this gap.
So I think I make it 8 riders who are in here at this moment in time, and the 8 riders are Garnier, the American champion, Hagiwara of Wiggle Honda, Zorzi of Lotto Soudal, Williams of Orica AIS, who won, of course, the first Suffer Prize, we may remember, many races back, the Drenthe World Cup. Vicielli, Oliveira and Rivat of this Futuroscope team. And now Rabo Liv have to do the chasing right now to bring this race back together.
It looks like it could be Knaderman on the front doing the job now for the Rabo Liv team, and she's digging very, very deep. So she's obviously been told, get on the front now, use everything you've possibly got to close this gap, because my guess is that Rabo Liv are going to start attacking at some point.
Yeah, they can see now 22 seconds is the advantage for the leading group of 8 riders as they make their way around the twists and turns of this course. Not long until we get back to the finishing line again, and we go back out on the course for the final finishing loop. This race started with 119 riders taken to the start, 20 teams of 6, one team had 5 riders in the peloton, 4 laps of 26.9 kilometers, 1 lap of 13.9, and the tempo at the front led by Megan Garnier now, with the rest of the riders all looking round at each other, is pretty hefty. So many attacks still going on, and the tempo 8 riders on the attack, 15 seconds. So Roxanne Knetemann is doing an awful lot of work to try and bring this race back together. I must admit, Rochelle, nice to see Roxanne Knetemann back racing in the peloton again.
Yeah, she's doing a fine job. So she's a rider that they can always count on, Roubaix Liv. She's just been so consistent and really reliable for the Roubaix Liv team over the last couple of years. So it's one of those riders that you'll throw into any race like this when you're going to be under pressure. You know you can count on her, you know you can call on her, and she's moved herself straight to the front and potentially making the difference here for Roubaix Liv.
The Brazilian champion then previously on the front as she asks everyone to do some work. Oliveira, you can see she's sitting right forward in the saddle, trying to keep the tempo as high as she possibly can. As they now make their way over the crest of this little climb, they'll go downhill very fast through these picturesque area of this Grand Prix Plouay course, but the peloton are starting to close in. 12 seconds again with 24 kilometers to go, and it's all going to be about this final run around this 11-kilometer course at the end. Pauline Fremprevot, the world champion, sitting on the left-hand side of the peloton as they go downhill. I was talking to her before the start. She said about her World Championship. She's 4 weeks left in the World Championship jersey. She won't get to wear it very much because she's going to be trying to win the World Champion of the mountain bike. But she says she thinks the American course will suit her to try and defend her title.
Absolutely. I think it'll all depend. I mean, we didn't know how her form would be. Look, Lucinda Brand's made her way back into the peloton. That's impressive. Really impressive ride from her today. And we see now that Roubaix Liv are all there at the front. It's been a very interesting tactic from all of the teams today because, like we've said before, there's a race for the World Cup leaders' jersey, winner's jersey, being the final round of the World Cup, but also the win for the day. So then you have riders that are not in contention for the World Cup Series trying to take advantage of that race within a race. So we've seen so many different tactics, a lot of communication. You can see also now they've got the breakaway in sight, so it looks like they're just keeping them in check. Oh, this is the breakaway, sorry.
Megan Garnier is just looking around. She's not doing any work. She's not going through at all. She is not contributing to the pace. Zorzi's on her radio asking what is going on, but Garnier is just disrupting this break.
Well, she's having a look behind. It looks to me like she's been instructed to not go through and lift the pace. It looks like they want this to come back. And like we said, if Lizzie Armitstead wins today, then she could potentially win the World Cup Series, depending on what Anna van der Breggen does and how close she is behind Lizzie Armitstead in the final. But it looks like there is a little bit of confusion about the race tactics, and we've seen that today many times. We've seen Roubaix Liv on the attack and Bowles on the attack, and it's very difficult to read this race and what the teams actually want to do.
Let's take a look at the front of the peloton then. Carly Taylor in the red and white for Lotto Soudal. Lizzie Armitstead in the white as the British champion. Remember, not in the white as the World Cup leader. She lost that jersey last weekend. To her right-hand side is Elisa Longoborghini, the Italian. Now moving up is Jolie Newmanville, the Canadian champion. Moving up with her is Elena Cecchini, the Italian champion in the green, white and red. Also up near the front is the South African champion, Ashley Moolman. All the champions of their countries are all at the front of this peloton right now.
Well, now here we get another picture of the break, and you see the Orica rider there in third wheel, Lizzie Williams. We wouldn't have expected her, if we were talking about her last year, to see her in a breakaway on this type of course, because she was labelled as a sprinter. She was a very good junior athlete, and when she was quite young, known as a sprinter. Actually, I was sprinting against her many years ago, and she left the sport, and she just came back last year with the Australian national team, and now she's in a break in the final round of the World Cup. So definitely made some huge developments over the last 12 months.
She said earlier on today that she suffered so badly in the first World Cup when she won the Suffer Prize. She can still remember that day. She said it was the worst day she's ever had on a bike. She was so thrilled to be actually awarded something at the end of the race, as we see the Lithuanian rider go very, very wide on that corner and lose an awful lot of momentum. And she seemed really up for it. She said she'd learned an awful lot this season, and she was up for it. A rider going straight on that corner. There's a few riders not quite getting this right-hander totally right, and we've been round here 4 times now.
We saw a couple of riders overshoot the corner, but I can imagine there's a lot of nervous riders in there now coming into the finish, wanting to hold position. They've got 21 kilometres to go. It's been such an exciting race. Probably a lot of fatigued riders because it's been absolutely on attack after attack.
The other thing we should mention, Rochelle, is it's 30 degrees before the start today. Whoops, almost going straight on. It was one of the French riders, I think, or one of the BTC Ljubljana riders who almost went straight on. But at the race start, I was standing talking to Emma Johansson, and she said it's really humid. It's hot today, isn't it? Checked her SRM, and it was 30 degrees.
Well, I'm sure they didn't expect that here in Plouay. No. We've had some terrible weather in the past, but it is really hot out there, so hydration will be important, and we see the riders now just taking on probably their last little bit of food. And looks like this breakaway, it's working quite well together, but like we said, looks like Boels Dolmans have instructed their rider in the breakaway not to do any work. Looks like Lizzie Armitstead's feeling very good back in the peloton and just waiting for her moment. Rabo
Liv are the team in the orange and white on the front of this peloton right now. Lucinda Brand, what a ride from her to get back into the group, knowing that she went all the way through all the groups, well, the first 2 groups on the road. Now she's back at the front of the race, which is very, very impressive indeed from the Dutch champion right now. So the rider who is in here for Boels Dolman is Garnier, Hagiwara of Wiggle Honda, Zorzi of Lotto Soudal, Lizzie Williams, the Australian rider from Orica AIS, Lilivite wearing number 141, the Lithuanian rider in the luminous colours. Vicielli is the rider who is riding for SC Michele Fanini Rocks. Oliveira of Ale Cipollini, and Rivat, who rides for the French team. But this race is coming back together, and despite Zorzi trying to kick things on at the front, the fact that Garnier's decided the race is coming back together means that it is. She's refused to do any work whatsoever, and now it's going to come back with 19, maybe 19 kilometres to go, something like that, and then we'll see who else starts to put in the big attacks. But remember, Rochelle, we're going to go onto this climb again not long. We're going to loop down, a big loop round to the left-hand side. We go up that tiny little narrow lane on the right-hand side, up onto the hill, and then I think we're going to see some fireworks. Well, it's been an aggressive race, and I'm interested to see who's going to win the Suffer Prize today, because Lucinda Brand, she had that mechanical and she came back, so she's had to suffer to get back in there. But Canadian for Rabo Liv just did an amazing turn on the front. We've also seen Evelyn Stevens with that face on so many times today, making it an aggressive race. As we see then Lizzie Williams, the first rider round the corner. On the front, she wants to keep this one going, but it is just going to come back together. Garnier sitting right on the back, Lizzie Williams through these twists and turns into this little narrow lane soon, and then we'll get up this hill. I think we're going to see some attacks. So thanks very much for joining us. 19 kilometres now remaining. With me, Rochelle Gilmore, as we guide you onto the fire. This climb now 1,500 metres all uphill. The camper vans are on the left-hand side of the road as we reach the top. This is what they call the Côte de Timorec. It's 5.5%, but the steepest bits of it are a lot worse than that. Well, yeah, it's hard to see from the view here how tough it actually is, but it is really, really steep. And you can see now the peloton's going to close in on this breakaway. They're trying to push the pace just to get over this steep bit ahead of the peloton, but it looks like it's going to come back together. And I think in the next couple of kilometres, we're going to see a lot of attacking from a lot of the riders. We see Orica AIS have done a fantastic race to this moment for Emmy Johansson. You can see the peloton closing in, and Lizzie Armitstead's right in position as well. This is a steep little rise. We came up it yesterday, then they come up onto the main dual carriageway, and it's horrible because it's big, it's wide, it's steep, and you can see the top as well. And immediately Pauline Ferrand-Prévot ups the tempo, the world champion. Glued to her wheel is Lizzie Armitstead, and Ferrand-Prévot looking good, and the front Garnier goes on the attack. This is predetermined now. Garnier is going to make the tempo very, very hard and give Armitstead something to go for. We can see it's Pauline Ferrand-Prévot and Elisa Longo Borghini coming up on the outside, making her move. So this is the lap. I think we're going to see everybody and see what legs they actually have. But this is a pretty aggressive and high pace on the climb. Lizzie Armitstead just having a look around to see the face of Anna van der Breggen. I wonder whether Lizzie Armitstead is going to fall into that trap of riding a matching race and just looking at everybody, because right now I think Van der Breggen's suffering. She is trying to close the gap on Armitstead, and right now I think if this was hit hard, I think this race would be blown to pieces. Pauline Ferrand-Prévot looks around. Armitstead's looking to see how everyone is. She swings across. Megan Garnier making it very, very hard. Armitstead making this look so easy.
I think she's lining herself up for an attack because she wants to see how Anna van der Breggen is doing, but I think she's just moved to the back and we might see an attack from her in a moment.
She's getting it in a big gear. Get ready. Here we go. Watch out, because I think you're about to see a massive attack as Armitstead absolutely smashes it on the right-hand side. And that was, she put it in a huge gear before she went. Look at the attack of Armitstead as she goes clear and no one is able to get on the wheel. This is a furious smash from Armitstead.
She had the most powerful rider in the peloton, Georgia Brontini, try to make the move with her, but she just couldn't hold the wheel. It's Anna van der Breggen now trying to come across. This is the move of the race, so it's between the two riders going for the World Cup Series, but Lizzie Armitstead, she is on a mission.
Look at the size of the gear Armitstead is in as she goes over the top of this climb. Onto the wheel, Elisa Longa-Borghini is trying to get there. I think Van der Breggen has managed to get on the wheel somehow, and Armitstead is just kicking this so hard. Immediately, Van der Breggen is desperately trying to stay with her. Lizzie Armitstead says, you better do some work now. Longa-Borghini is trying to go with it, and immediately does. Armitstead is onto the wheel, and Emma Johansson is also there. This is a huge attack, and despite, no matter which one of these riders wins this World Cup, you've been treated to some bike race.
I think we may have underestimated the condition and feeling of Anna van der Breggen, because she came across to that, and she's just made a point by rolling through over the top of Lizzie Armitstead to say, hey, my legs are not too bad, so if you want to try that again, I'm going to be here. So it's a race between Lizzie Armitstead and Anna van der Breggen, but can the likes of Elisa Longa-Borghini and Emma Johansson take advantage of that race between the two World Cup contenders?
On the front then is Emma Johansson, the Swedish champion. The British champion, Lizzie Armitstead, is there. Also with them is Van der Breggen, who I thought was suffering, but she rolled back onto the wheel, as you said, Rochelle, and she rode really strongly. Elisa Longa-Borghini also in this group. I'm just looking to see who else has made it. I think it's Ashley Moolman and Pauline Ferrand-Prévot. What an elite group, and behind them maybe only 10 riders left.
Well, you would think that this group would stay away. It's Lotto who've missed the move, so they've got a rider driving it on the front there for Carly Taylor. But this is the best of the best in this group. This is who we'd expect to see at the business end of the bike race, and everybody, Emma Johansson, they're keen to keep pushing the pressure here so they can be racing between these riders for the World Cup victory here in Plouay.
About 6 riders then in this leading group. The world champion, Pauline Ferrand-Prévot, Lizzie Armitstead, the British champion, the rider who is the virtual World Cup leader right now, Anna van der Breggen. The South African champion is Ashley Moolman. Pauline Ferrand-Prévot going through there, and Armitstead on her wheel. Elisa Longa-Borghini not doing any work right now. Emma Johansson, the Swedish champion. 6 of the best women bike riders in the world are now ahead of this race. Emma Johansson has not stopped eating all day today. I've seen constantly. She was even eating on the start line today.
Well, to me that means that she's in fine form because her metabolism's going quite well. But normally when you're biting the handlebars and finding the race really difficult, you just can't find the energy to eat. And she's been taking food on board the whole time, so that means that she's quite comfortable there. We see now Elisa Longa-Borghini taking over from Ashley Moolman in the break, but it's Rabo Liv that have 2 riders here in the break, so they've got the upper hand on the other riders. Lizzie Armitstead, we can expect to see her have another go, but she could also back herself for a sprint, so it'll be interesting to see if she's going to keep attacking to the line, or hope that she can put a few places between herself and Anna van der Breggen.
You wonder how many attacks a rider like that has got left in her legs, because that was a massive attack.
It was a massive attack, and we saw last weekend in Sweden that she attacks more than any other rider in the final part of the race. We see now there's some riders making their way back. If they're going to look at each other now, there might be a few riders come back and make contact with these elite breakaway riders.
The leading group then, if you've just joined us, is Pauline Ferrand-Prévot, the world champion. Anna van der Breggen, the rider from Rabo Liv. Lizzie Armistead, the British champion. Emma Johansson, the Swedish champion. Ashley Moom, the South African champion. And Elisa Longoborghini, as van der Breggen decides that it's time to go to the front and share the pacemaking and try and kick things on. They don't want this group to come back, but unfortunately they're going to. And this race is going to come back together, which is going to play back into the hands of the team who have the strength behind, which I think would be Bowles Dolmans, but Rabo Liv also in here. Have a number of riders. We're going to come round now, Rochelle. We're going to have one lap of racing to go, and it's Lizzie Armistead. Also in here, I think, is Georgia Bronzini. Megan Garnier's just made her way back. Carly Taylor. This is a very, very elite group of bike riders now.
Well, you have a few teams that have got more than one rider there, so we're going to see some tactics play out. This is Megan Garnier, followed by Georgia Bronzini.
Another big attack then. And it's Bronzini who follows Megan Garnier, the American champion, as they go on the attack. So 3 riders going clear, immediately tracked by another rider just behind. Evelyn Stevens, I've just seen, trying desperately to get across to help Lizzie Armistead. She's in a group of 4 riders who have just tried to get back across to the leaders now. So there's about 15 riders in this leading group, and there are riders who've been right on form over the last few weeks, one of them being Carly Taylor, who is right at the back of the group. On to the next climb. So in this group, we still have some of the riders like Oliveira, who is in there. Oliveira, the former Brazilian champion. Bronzini is also in this group as they make their way up this climb. This group of 4 riders desperately trying to come back now, and it's Evie Stevens who's trying to come back to help Lizzie Armistead right now. But you have to say, as things stand, I would be saying that van der Breggen seems to have this race pretty much matched. She's got the strength in numbers in this front group right now. The race led by one of the riders from Bowles Dolmans, the American champion, Megan Garnier, but this race has been split all over the place. On the back is the Lithuanian rider just on the left-hand side, Lilivite. She was on the attack earlier. Number 33 there on the back is Oliveira. Bronzini is there to help Elisa Longoborghini. And also in this group near the front now, we see another massive attack, and it's Oliveira of Ale Cipollini who goes clear. So Oliveira's decided it's time to go again. She's riding so strongly, this Brazilian rider. And not far behind her is the Inpa rider who is trying to get across to join up with the leaders. And now another massive attack, and it's Evelyn Stevens. Evie Stevens has finally made her way back to the front, and she catches the leaders and immediately goes on the attack here for the Bowles Dolmans team. They are trying so hard to make this race impossible for everybody else, as Evelyn Stevens immediately makes a move with the tracking of Pauline Ferrand-Prévot. Behind her is Emma Johansson, the Swedish champion, who's going to close up on this. Ashley Moolman is putting in a massive turn to get back. There's about 15 riders now left at the front of this race. So, Rochelle, as we make our way up the climb at the front now, Evelyn Stevens makes her way to the front and immediately attacks, now being tracked back as we see the Canadian champion, Jolie Newmanville, has had enough. She's blown. That's enough. But Evelyn Stevens, what a ride. Straight to the front and immediately attacking. And now Ferrand-Prévot going on the move again.
Well, as we said, we think that Rabo Liv really want to set her up for a win in her home country here in France. So she's putting the hammer down now. She's really hurting people. But Evie Stevens, she's had a wonderful ride. She's been digging very deep to be there for her teammates.
Ferrand-Prévot now goes on the move, immediately tracked by Armistead. Behind her is Elisa Longoborghini. Behind her, van der Breggen. Then Moolman. Behind Moolman, right on the back of that group is Emma Johansson. The gaps are starting to open. This is this little climb where you can do some massive damage, and it's Oliveira who started the attack, who's now starting to suffer. Further on back, just in front of her is Evelyn Stevens, who's now suffering again as Armistead goes clear with Longoborghini, with van der Breggen, with Pauline Ferrand-Prévot. This is some race. This is this is one of those races you always want to see as the final round of a World Cup.
Well, I knew it would be exciting, Anthony, with the World Cup series being up for grabs with a few riders. And all the teams being so strong and depth in numbers, they've really set their riders up today. And you can see that the lead riders here now, it's all playing out in the final parts of the race. But not only for this race here in Plouay, but for the World Cup Series. We've seen the most exciting race I've seen in a very, very long time.
Susanna Zorzi is trying to shut the gap to go across to the leaders. Well, no wheel is Megan Garnier, no surprise there. A couple of wheels back is Carly Taylor of Lotto Soudal, but Fran Prevot and Armitstead are the two animators now of this front group. We'll see what happens on the run-in to the finish. Longa Borghini, Emma Johansson on the right-hand side, looking to try and make a move now. Her final race for Orica AIS. Orica Orica AIS, sorry, I lost my microphone then. Orica AIS is Emma Johansson trying to make her final race of the year, ever with this team, one to remember. And now again, a group come back to the front, which contains the likes of Garnier and everyone else. So this race is starting to swell again in numbers as Cecchini gets her way back to the front as well.
Well, Claudia Lichtenberg has also come back from the Live Planteur. You can see that she's putting water on her back, so it's pretty hot out there, trying to cool herself down. But there's just a little bit of a lull here. It's been such an aggressive race, attack after attack. But we've seen this little bit of a lull in the previous parts of the race. It's only for a very short period before another rider goes on the attack.
I'm wondering, Rochelle, if Anna Stricker is the INPA rider who's still in here. Cecchini is still there. Megan Garnier now recovers and comes back to the front. So there's around about 12, maybe 14 riders in this front group. Evelyn Stevens, what a race Evelyn Stevens has had. If she doesn't win the Suffer Prize, then she's going to finish second. This rider has been incredible today. Longa Borghini going with her. The INPA rider, the third rider, might be Stricker. Behind her is Emma Johansson. Van der Breggen now with Armitstead right on her wheel. Garnier comes alongside our Lizzie and has a long chat.
Yeah, they're having a chat there about what to do now on the last time up the climb. But this rider on the front, Evelyn Stevens, what a ride.
Evelyn Stevens has been the teammate you would always want today. This is so impressive from this American rider. She was in good spirits this morning. She was up for this, and she has been a faithful right-hand rider to Lizzie Armitstead today. Longa Borghini looks across. It's pretty impressive riding from her as well. She looks to take the wheel of Evelyn Stevens. Another attack on the left-hand side, and Bowles Dolman's hit them yet again.
So you can see there that Evie Stevens on the front grabbed her radio just to tell Garnier, okay, go. The peloton hasn't reacted here, or the small bunch here, they haven't reacted. So just giving her some motivation to say, keep that going. It's Pauline Fran Prevot that moves to the front. She really wants this World Cup victory here at her home World Cup. But this is a strong move by Garnier. Inside
the final 10 kilometres of racing in the World Cup here in Plouay. We know that it's going to come down to the wire. In the previous Plouay wins, Lucinda Brand was the winner last year. Marianne Vos, twice winner in 13 and 12. Van Vleuten, we must say hello to her. We know she's on the way back. 2011. Emma Pooley was the winner twice, 2010 and 2009. But we know Van der Breggen's finished third in this race before. Longa Borghini's finished third. Johansson's finished second. Stevens has finished second. So all these riders we're seeing in here have had good performances in this race, and Pauline Fran Prevot was third last year as she now brings the race close back together.
Well, 8.9 kilometres to go. Probably the surprise of the day is Giorgia Brontini to still be there inside the last 10 kilometres, known as a very, very fast sprinter. You wouldn't want to come to the finish with her, but it's going to be all about that last climb. She had a fantastic ride. She was second here 9 years ago, so it was a slightly easier course than it is today, but she's really proven her point. She wanted to come here and get a performance on a hard circuit, and she certainly performed well today.
We're seeing another attack, and it's Evelyn Stevens who goes on the attack yet again. Immediately tracked by the rider from Live Planteur.
It's Claudia Lichtenberg. So she had fine form at the Route de France, finishing on the general classification up on the podium. So she's coming back into really good form. You can see that she's just trying to close the gap there to Evie Stevens, but it's really, really difficult to believe that Evie Stevens still has the power in her legs to make it difficult for the other teams to close this gap.
Evie Stevens, who clearly is right on top form. Remember, Rochelle, we're going to America to the World Championships. This rider wants a world title. It will be her only chance to ride this season, I guess, for herself, now that Lizzie is trying to win the World Cup. And she knows she's got the strength, she's got the ability. She's finished on she's won big races. We just haven't seen her win one for a while.
She's been very dedicated to her team performances, that's for sure. Very, very valuable to any team because, you know, day after day in a tour, she can work endlessly and tirelessly for a team. But this is impressive, like I said, towards the end of the bike race, to be able to put a gap between herself and the peloton. There's a rider trying to go across there.
Cicchini is trying to come across. So it is the leader of Liv Planteur, who is clear, Claudia Lichtenberg. And she now is kicking on at the front of this race with 7 kilometres to go. And it's Cicchini who's trying to come across. And you've been mentioning Claudia Lichtenberg all the time as a possible winner of this race.
Yeah, she's definitely a potential winner on a circuit like this. She needs a very hard race, and that's what she's had today, so it's playing into her hands. But Cicchini, that's a ride to come across to that breakaway, and she'll make that a very, very dangerous move by the American Evie Stevens. Cicchini's just made contact.
6 kilometres to go. Cicchini, I'm getting ahead of myself. 6.5 kilometres to go. Cicchini now catches them. I think there's been a crash potentially. Another attack now, and it's Lizzie Armistead. The motorbike's kind of in the way there. I don't know what's going on there, right in the middle of that peloton. But Lizzie Armistead is trying to go with Lucinda Brand. It was a little bit sketchy in there for a second as Brand looks around to see Armistead, but up front now it's Evelyn Stevens, Claudia Lichtenberg in the black and white of Liv Planteur, and the Italian champion Elena Cicchini, who many people mentioned as a possible winner of today's race.
Yeah, like we said, she's made huge developments with the Lotto team this year, coming from smaller teams in the past, but fantastic signing from the Lotto team, and she's made leaps and bounds. And as we said earlier in the program today, that she is potentially one of the best bike riders in the world, pretty much an overnight sensation. We see a bit of action happening back there in the chasing group.
Rachel Naylan goes clear for Orica AIS. Immediately on her wheel is Megan Garnier. So Rachel Naylan, who this week won that stage of the Trophée d'Or, second in the World Championships to Marianne Vos on one of the toughest World Championship courses of recent years, and now back on form after a lot of illness and a lot of injury.
Well, Rach Naylan has proved that she can target one-day races and be on top form with World Championship races. It was her first race in Europe that she actually won at Trophée d'Or, but she won it in fine style. She's just come back from Australia, and she's really showing that she can go away, train, and come back in peak form to perform at a World Championship.
This is the race situation. 5.2 kilometres now remain. The three leaders, Claudia Lichtenberg, Evelyn Stevens, Elena Cicchini, now an attack from the world champion. Pauline Ferrand-Prévot decides if she's going to go it alone, and I wonder why she's doing that. Well, we know why, because it's French soil. She wants to win this race, and Armistead could use this to really good effect, because she now is the rider who's coming across, and immediately on her wheel, Anna van der Breggen is not there, so Pauline Ferrand-Prévot is putting Lizzie Armistead in a winning position here as they turn onto this little narrow road, and Armistead has a gap, and she can now use this as a springboard to win the World Cup if she wants to.
Well, it looks like she's just made contact, and that's the move she'd have to make, but Anna van der Breggen was in that line of riders that was coming across, so it may have been a move by Pauline Ferrand-Prévot just to put pressure on Lizzie Armistead to do the job, to close it down. Anna van der Breggen looked like she was just on the wheel, out of the wind there, trying to make her way back, but it's all happening. It's such an exciting race, so unpredictable, so many riders still in for a chance of winning this World Cup, all the World Cup series.
I tell you, I would not want to be Evelyn Stevens' legs right now. She is giving them a serious amount of pain. She's been putting herself through the ringer all day today, and she's now on the Côte de Timarec, and she's still the rider on the front, driving this race on to try and win this round of the World Cup.
Well, we see on the one of the toughest parts of the climb that it was Georgia Brontini on the front while Elisa Longo Borghini makes an attack. Unfortunately for her, she had Lizzie Armistead right on the wheel when she made that move, but looks like she's going to go right from the bottom and try and break this up, and she has done that. There's 5 riders just pulling away from that chasing group.
Lichtenberg now reaches the limit of her ability today. She now disappears, so it is Evelyn Stevens of Bowles Dolmans with Elena Cecchini, who to me looks a lot fresher right now. Cecchini, can she win this World Cup? She's won in China before. Can she win? She almost hits the wheel of Evelyn Stevens, but behind them, it's Armistead with Van der Breggen sticking to her like a piece of Velcro. Behind her is Ashley Moorman, Pauline Ferrand-Prévot. Lichtenberg is desperately trying to stay in the wheels, and Lisa Longo Borghini is also there. This race is going to come down to 8 riders as they make their way into the final 4 kilometres of the Plouay World Cup.
Well, I'll tell you what, Anthony, this could be looking good for Lizzie Armistead, because the closer she gets to the finish line, the deeper she can dig, because she knows that she's the fastest of this little group here. And she knows that she needs to put a few places between herself and Anna van der Breggen to take home that jersey. But like she said, she just wants to win the race today and see how the series plays out.
This is some bike race. Pauline Ferrand-Prévot then suffering a little bit. Lichtenberg goes. She's blown. She is in difficulty. Now the attack of Lizzie Armistead, the World Cup winner of last year, gives this absolutely full throttle. She's desperately trying to go away again. She knows she has to win and have one place between her and Van der Breggen, and Armistead giving this so much gas.
Well, she saw the opportunity there, but it's Elisa Longo Borghini that's doing the work. She perhaps doesn't need to do that, because Anna van der Breggen could have been the one that had to chase down and close that gap. You see now Elisa Longo Borghini still driving it on the front, but Pauline Ferrand-Prévot's just lost contact there with the chasing group.
Evie Stevens talking into her radio all the time, probably telling Lizzie Armistead what is going on behind her. The answer is that Elisa Longo Borghini is desperately trying to bring the race back together. Behind her is Ashley Moorman. Armistead showing full teeth now, gritting those teeth to try and stay away. Behind her is Elisa Longo Borghini, Anna van der Breggen. Ashley Moorman is producing the best performance of her year so far, as Armistead now clicks into the gears and puts them in a massive gear. You'll notice today, Rochelle, I noticed on the start line, she has no computer on her bike at all today, riding totally on feel.
Well, she's having a good feeling out there today. We thought that that last attack that she did a couple of laps ago was everything that she had, but this one was even slightly more powerful. She was very fortunate that Elisa Longo Borghini did the majority of the work to bring that back, but now Anna van der Breggen really digging deep to make contact with the back of the wheel of Lizzie Armistead. But this is certainly a very exciting race. Looking also very good for Emma Johansson, who's just been on the back there, getting a ride back up to the riders of Lizzie Armistead.
Armistead is now dragging Van der Breggen away. This would give Van der Breggen the win in the World Cup. Elisa Longo Borghini, this isn't good for the World Cup overall. For Armistead, it's perfect for Van der Breggen. Armistead looks around to see who's there, and there is a gap. The camera doesn't really show it, but Elisa Longo Borghini trying to shut the final few meters. Emma Johansson chucks off her bottle. Ashley Moorman is there for Bigler, and now Moorman is going to make a massive move on the left-hand side, which she does. She hits them immediately, the South African champion. Armistead jumps straight onto it. This is now 2.5 kilometres from a finish.
Well, Lizzie Armistead's really taken this race into her own hands. You have to give it to her, even if she doesn't pull off the World Cup series. She's had a fantastic race today, and she's fought all the way to the finish line. She's given it every single thing that she's got.
Van der Breggen is not going anywhere other than the wheel of Lizzie Armistead. Emma Johansson, so wily, so ready, so about to pounce and win this race. The Swedish champion, is she going to win her final race for Orica AIS? She hasn't won a World Cup since Chitilio in 2014. She is a rider who's won a silver medal in the Olympic Games in Beijing. She's won Drenthe, she's won Omloop het Nieuwsblad on 2 occasions. She's been the top rider in the world rankings, as Moorman now tries to attack, but it's a slow motion attack as Armistead now jumps on that as well. Johansson going nowhere near the front.
I think we're going to see an attack from Emmy Johansson in a moment. I don't think she'd be backing herself in a sprint against Lizzie Armitstead, but she is a very, very fast rider. You would say out of this group of riders that Lizzie Armitstead would be the fastest, and then Emmy Johansson. But Lizzie Armitstead's done the majority of the work, so Emmy Johansson might be backing herself in a sprint. It looks like she's just sitting back, either waiting for a moment or waiting for that sprint, but she has a very good chance here today.
This race is about winning the World Cup and winning the World Cup round overall. This is the 10th round of the World Cup. Armitstead just throws her bottle off. It is between two riders now, pretty much between Van der Breggen and Armitstead for the World Cup overall. There are 21 points between them. There is 120 points for the win. There's 100 for second. If Van der Breggen can win this, she wins the World Cup. If she finishes one place behind Armitstead, she wins the World Cup. Armitstead needs one rider between her and Van der Breggen and really has to win the race. 5 riders: Armitstead, Van der Breggen, Moolman, Johansson and Elisa Longa-Borghini, and 1K to go.
Well, this is exciting, Anthony. I think Lizzie Armitstead will be very confident in this position, riding from the front. We've often seen her sprint from the front and win races from the front. She comes from a track background. She's got very quick reflexes. She rides always with her head turned to see what's coming, so she's in a very good position coming into the finish.
They're all looking round. They're wondering where the next group on the road are. They're not far behind. Armitstead, as you said, is a rider who comes from a track background. She's going to stay right on the right-hand side of the road.
Well, just as you said that, Anthony, she switches over to the left, but she's certainly going to want to be on the edge of the road, whether it's the right or the left. She may have moved over to the left because of her track background. Wants to look over the right shoulder. Elisa Longa-Borghini, this is her last chance. Who's going to chase this down? Anna van der Breggen does it. She doesn't need to do that again, so it's an interesting tactic. Anna van der Breggen only needs to follow the wheel of Lizzie Armitstead, so she puts herself in a very vulnerable position here because Lizzie Armitstead is now in a very strong position.
This is a bit of a mistake by Van der Breggen. Emma Johansson now. This could have cost Van der Breggen the World Cup. It is now going to be a drag race. Armitstead opens up the sprint, going for the line now. Van der Breggen is dying a little bit. Emma Johansson is on the wheel. Lizzie Armitstead is going for the line. She wins. Armitstead wins and wins the World Cup.
She wins the World Cup.
That is a fantastic performance from Lizzie Armitstead, and she even had time to zip her jersey up.
That's class, Anthony. You don't see that very often. This is such a competitive sprint there for Lizzie Armitstead. You know, all the best riders in the world, and she raced today. She raced with her heart. She said she was going to go for the win and see what happens, and she's taking the World Cup series.
What a win from Lizzie Armitstead. A little mistake there, Rochelle, by Anna van der Breggen. If she'd let Elisa Longa-Borghini go, the World Cup was hers. She chased it immediately. That's the racer in her. And then Armitstead just kicked on and still had time to zip her jersey up with 5 meters to go.
Well, I think it's fantastic to see Lizzie Armitstead take that because she did everything right today. She made it hard for herself with a mishap last week in Sweden. She was not positioned very well. She got caught behind a crash with 200 meters to go, but look at this. She hits out quite early. So much power, puts a gap between her and the other riders. Anna van der Breggen struggling to get a wheel there. And Emmy Johansson, and a late run from Pauline Ferrand-Prévot.
So it was Armitstead who hits the line with a clear gap between her and Johansson. Behind her is Pauline Ferrand-Prévot. It was some sprint, and the other group were coming back.
We didn't expect Pauline Ferrand-Prévot to be back after she lost that wheel on the climb, but you can see Evelyn Stevens there just celebrating the win of Lizzie Armitstead.
What a win by Armitstead. The British champion wins the World Cup back-to-back, 2014 and 2015, with an absolute dominant display in the finishing straight there.
She said it was so important for her to win the World Cup series because next year it moves into a women's world tour. That's a combination of one-day races and tours, but for Lizzie Armitstead to take the World Cup leader's jersey, winner's jersey today, sensational. She really, really deserved that.
That was some race.
It was one of the most exciting races I've seen, that's for sure.
That was absolutely incredible. We went live with, 50k to go. That 50 kilometers has gone in about 5 minutes. It was absolutely amazing.
Absolutely. There's so many riders that are on form leading into the World Championship, and such a dedicated team performance from the Bol-Stolmans team and the Rabo Liv team today. So, yeah, it provided us with a very exciting day.
Absolutely incredible. What an advert for women's cycling that was.
Absolutely. Here we have the standings.
So the result of the Grand Prix Plouay, the final round of the World Cup. Lizzie Armistead wins ahead of Emma Johansson in second. The world champion, Pauline Ferrand-Prévot, again finishes in third. What a ride by Ashley Moolman-Passio in fourth. Claudia Lichtenberg in fifth. Van der Breggen in sixth. Cecchini, Stevens and Longa Borghini in the top 9 places. Here's the next group coming in. Well, there's a lot of riders who've done a lot of work for their team leaders today. I think I noticed Jessie Walker at the back, one of the young British riders, who is just riding into the finish line in that group. You just have to think maybe just the experience of Armistead and Ferrand-Prévot and those riders, because at least along Borghini's attack, then Van der Breggen, if she'd followed and hadn't chased, would have won the World Cup.
Well, it's possible. You know, Lizzie has so much experience, but after that indication in Sweden last weekend in the penultimate round of the World Cup Series, we saw that Lizzie Armistead was outstanding, probably the strongest rider in the race with the best condition. It was just a matter of would Lizzie Armistead be able to keep her cool after losing the World Cup jersey just 7 days ago, keeping her calm all week and being able to use that form today to take back the World Cup jersey. A very difficult position for her to be in, but to pull that off today in the style that she did, racing the whole day, taking the race into her own hands. She didn't really rely on her teammates too much. When it was her turn to cover a break, she did that. So, you know, you couldn't ask for a more deserving winner today.
What does that tell us about the World Championships in 4 weeks' time as well?
Well, it was an outstanding performance from Evelyn Stevens, the American, going into a home World Championships. She rides on the same team as Lizzie Armistead, but what's going to happen when they're on separate teams racing against each other? They're both in really, really good form.
It's going to be pretty special, I think. So, Rochelle, I'm going to run and do the interviews, and you're going to bring everyone the presentations in a few moments. So we'll let everyone relax and calm down a little bit.
Yeah, we're just going to go offline. That was a pretty exciting race, so everybody can relax a little bit, and we'll be back with you very shortly for the presentations.
La concurrente américaine, Evelyn Stevens, 9e, la concurrente italienne, Longa Borghini, 10e, la lituanienne, grâce à l'égalité. nous avons demain pour le Grand Prix Ouest France à Plouay.
Quel superbe plateau demain, alors que notre Arlésiens
Et toi, connais.
les images heureuses sans doute de voir que sa coéquipière a remporté donc l'épreuve. Pardon, laquelle vous disiez que vous
Non, 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 je suis d'accord avec vous.
d'accord, ça va.
Ouais, je fais des efforts.
Qui sera là demain? Levez la main, ceux qui seront là demain. Ah.
Voilà les 12 premières du Grand Prix Plouay-Bretagne.
Well, Lizzie Armitstead's had some fine performances in her career, including a silver medal at the Olympic Games in London to Marianne Vos. But this would be a special day for her. She may not have realised what she actually did today, but she lost the World Cup jersey last weekend in Sweden due to misfortune. But she's won today's World Cup race here in Plouay and taken the series with it.
Grand Prix Plouay-Bretagne, dernière manche de la Coupe du Monde dames. Avec la lauréate et vos applaudissements pour la membre de la formation, championne de Grande-Bretagne, vice-championne olympique, lauréate de la Coupe du Monde 2014 et lauréate à Plouay aujourd'hui,
It's a well-deserved victory here today in GP Plouay from Lizzie Armitstead. She followed every single move. She took the race into her own hands. She had a lot of pressure. She had a very strong team. An amazing performance by Evelyn Stevens, her teammate today, so she'll be very, very grateful for the support that she had out there. But you can't take it away from her. She's the deserving winner of today's World Cup and the World Cup Series. Wonderful crowds here, a beautiful day, perfect temperatures for a bike race. It's wonderful crowds here. It's always a great atmosphere in Plouay. It was another fantastic ride by Emma Johansson. She said that she wanted to have a strong performance here. Her last ride ever with the Orica AIS team. And I think she's done the team very proud to finish off second in this World Cup today. Just getting their congratulations there before we present third place to one of the big crowd favourites. We're going to hear a pretty loud roar, I think, from the crowd when they present the third place. The world champion, Pauline Ferrand-Prévot. Very excited crowd to see her on the podium. She wanted the victory today for Rabo Liv at third place. Really nice performance for her going into the World Championships next weekend for the mountain bikes. She likes to challenge herself with a couple of different disciplines, but she's definitely got the form to have a strong performance at the World Championships next weekend. So there we have it for 2015. GP Plouay, one of the hardest World Cups of the year. Very, very well-deserved win there by Lizzie Armitstead. A fantastic podium, round out by Emma Johansson of Orica AISM. Crowd favourite, Pauline Ferrand-Prévot taking third place here. We've got the results. Lizzie Armitstead from Bol-Stolmans, Emma Johansson in second place, Pauline Ferrand-Prévot third place. Fantastic ride by Ashley Moolman-Passio from South Africa today to finish in fourth place. So beautiful scenery here from Plouay while we stand by waiting for the presentation of the World Cup Series winner for 2015. Here she is, Lizzie Armitstead. A very proud moment she said the World Cup Series this year was very important to her because it's the last chance she might have to win this series, given that next year it's a Women's World Tour that's going to be a combination of one-day races and tours and may not really suit her. So she wanted to win this World Cup Series this year, and she's done it under a lot of pressure here in GP Plouay today. Second place for the World Cup Series in 2015 goes to Anna van der Breggen of the Rabo Live team. Also a very, very difficult day for Anna van der Breggen, having to cover all the moves. Came down to the last race of the series. She was in second place going in today, and she remains in second place for the overall World Cup Series. Well, Lizzie Armitstead's no stranger to this jersey. She won the series last year. She finishes 2015. You can see that the smile on her face says that she's very proud of this victory here in GP Plouay and for the series. She had to fight pretty hard for it today. She had a very, very strong ride. I think she's going to take a lot of confidence into the World Championships this year with a performance like that today. So the overall standings for the World Cup Series in 2015 goes to Lizzie Armitstead, a very well-deserved win this year. Anna van der Breggen takes second place. Jolien Daughter, who wasn't present here in the final round, but she did hold the winner's jersey before the last round today. She finishes in third position. Elisa Longo Borghini in fourth position. Lucinda Brand had a top ride today to finish the overall standings in fifth position. Pauline Ferrand-Prévot takes sixth place. Elena Amalusic in seventh. Georgia Bronzini in eighth. Ashley Moolman, strong ride from South Africa today, in ninth place. So there we have it for 2015. A very, very strongly contested World Cup Series this year. We can see Lizzie Armitstead now just being interviewed on the podium. It might not have sunk in what this actually means to her to have won this series this year. We see now the pictures on the podium of the first and second place winners of the 2015 series. Third place went to Jolien Daughter of Wiggle Honda, who's not present here today. The last round of the World Cup Series being here at GP Plouay didn't suit the sprinter Jolien Daughter, but she'll be very honoured to have taken third place in the World Cup Series. So Lizzie Armitstead celebrating her victory, and I'm sure she'll be looking forward to getting back to her Boels Dolmans team to celebrate the victory. They were a very big part of it, and I'm sure she will want to give all of the credit to this to her team for this victory. Well, there we have it, 2015, the World Cup Series